Hey, what's going on out there? How you guys doing? As you can see from what I have up here, I'm going to talk on this just for a little brief moment here, because you get a lot of these graphs and things like this from FaceTube and UBook and these social media websites, and a lot of times they lie. They're trying to push an agenda. And they possibly are trying to push an agenda with this one as well. But I'm going to show you the hypocrisy of what's happening here. Now, first off, this graph, if you look at the numbers, they are correct. The numbers are correct. And from looking at this, it was seen as though that white people are getting crime put on them from other nations like out of this world. You see the black on white crime is high. You see the Hispanic on white crime is high. Um, Now to kind of show you where this graph, I want to show you the actual real graph where this actually comes from, if I can. Shit. I'm going to show you the real graph here. This is the real graph here. This is table 14, right there in the middle of the screen, table 14. This is where these numbers come from. Okay? Now, if you do the math on here, you see where it says the first line, it says white, then it says 3,581,360 number of violent incidents on white people. And then it goes on to show you 62.1% it was white people did the crimes to white people. And then it was 15.3% of blacks that did the crime to whites. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, well it's only 15%, right? And when you do 15.3% of 3 million, 3.5 million, you get the number that you see here, which is the 547,948,000. Okay? So, where's the hypocrisy at here? The hypocrisy is, and I'm seeing like some of these Black Lives Matter people, they're using the same logic that we've been using all this time about Black Lives Matter. And what is that logic? Well, first of all, the Black Lives Matter are claiming and saying, well, most of the crimes that happen to white people are by white people. And let's go back to the other graph, and that is true. Look at it's 62.1% that white people is white on white crime, and most of the crime that happens to white people is happened by other whites. And Black Lives Matter is going to point this out. And I'm not arguing with it. It's what it is, right? But, and then they're going to say, well, as you can see, most of the crime that happens to whites is by other whites. And it's only a 15% that's blacks that's doing something to whites. It's not a whole lot. So Black Lives Matter is like, why are we sitting here doing this race baiting, trying to make it seem like a bunch of black people is doing all this stuff to white people, when in reality it's really whites doing more shit to other whites. But you see the hypocrisy? The hypocrisy is this thing, is what we've been saying about Black Lives Matter. We're sitting here rioting and looting over one white person does something to a black person, But nobody is in outrage and crying over all of the black on black crime, which we look in this graph here. 70%. These crimes are happening black on black crimes 70% of the time. But we're only crying and complaining about this small percentage where a white person does something to black people. And let's go back to the other graph real quick. Well, actually, we don't even have to do that. Stay on this graph. Look at the percentage of crime that happens that white people do to black people. It's only 10.6%. And go back to the other graph real quick. Look at this. White on black crime, only 59,000. It's a small number. So the same way, so here's the thing. You can't sit up here and get mad at these white folks for doing the same thing that the Black Lives Matter has been doing. They have been taking these little small numbers of white people doing something to black people and turning it into some huge thing like this needs to be really addressed. And so white people, they just turned the tables on us. They're doing the same thing that the Black Lives Matter have been doing. They're saying, hey, look, we got black on white crime here. And even though it's, and then, like I say, what we're going to do, and what I've been doing with the Black Lives Matter is saying, hey, that's not really it's not a lot of crime with black on white. You got more of a problem with white on white crime. We need to talk about that. But see, this is the same logic that the Black Lives Matter is going to use towards to the white folks that is pushing this agenda that's saying, hey, look at the crime that the blacks are doing to whites. So you can't have it both ways, Black Lives Matter. They're just using the same propaganda and rhetoric you guys have used on them. You're pushing this narrative as that white folks is hunting down black people. Which we know that's not the case at all. I don't know how many black folks get to locking their doors and looking outside the mirrors in both ways when they riding through a white suburb. But I guarantee you, half of these Negroes is going to be riding through a black neighborhood, locking their doors, keeping their eyes on the mirror, looking at the guy standing on the corner right there. So again, I just getting so sick and tired of this hypocrisy, man. Just over and over again. And now the white folks is playing it back on the black folks now. The first it was the black folks complaining about a couple of white people doing something to to a few black people. When the bigger issue is black on black issues. But we don't want to talk about that. All we want to talk about is the crime that happened, that the white on black crime, which is small. It's small fish to fry. And so the white people then turned it around on you black folks and say, hey, look at the black on white crime. And again, when you go back and look at all the crime that happens to white folks, over 3 million victims. So the bigger problem with white folks is white on white crime, and the bigger problem with black folks is black on black crime. Not this race baiting shit. So this is a bunch of hypocrisy. So this is so again, this is what the Black Lives Matter movement is doing. They're pulling out the same logic that we've been using for years on the Black Lives Matter movement, saying, hey, you're complaining about this one guy getting killed by a white cop, but what about all the babies that's getting shot? All the women getting raped? All the black on black victims in your neighborhood? That's a bigger problem. And so again, the white people are just turned to they doing the same thing. They're taking these small numbers, this small percentage, and saying, hey, look at this. When we can see that it's a problem. Crime is a problem within every community amongst, it seems like we can't seem to get along with one another. Blacks can't get along with blacks, and whites can't get along with fucking whites. So it sounds to me like what we need here, we need communities where it's black and white. Because it seems like it's like we can't seem to just get along amongst our own race of people, but we seem to get along better with other races of people. That's a goddamn crying shame. That I'm actually more safer around whites than I am the people of my own skin complexion. And whites is more safer around blacks than they are whites. So I'm just getting sick of the hypocrisy here. and so so I mean it's insane how we're taking these small numbers and saying, oh, look at us, we're victims. Black folks are hunting white people down now. And so this is what the white folks are saying, and then you got the black folks have been saying for years, oh, they're hunting us, the white people are hunting us down. It's like, what is the deal here? It's like, are we afraid to deal with the big issues, the bigger problems? The issues that is really causing havoc in the communities? I mean, what is the deal? I don't get this. I don't get it. I mean, but I guess what it is, again, what it is, and it's not that I don't get it, because here's what it is. What it is again, it's this propaganda. This media pushing races against another race, and it's bullshit. Now I don't know what is it going to take for the media to tell you that what is it going to take to find out and realize that the media is lying to you, and they've been lying. So man, I hope people just start waking the fuck up, man, because they just keep, it's like one thing after the other. They keep pushing this rhetoric, and it's bullshit. It's time to start dealing with the bigger issues. If you want to start dealing with the bigger issues, get at me. I'm out, y'all.